My racist grandfather cut me out of his will, so I set his life on fire. My grandfather and I have never been exactly close. My mother makes the excuse that he's just old-fashioned, but it's way beyond that. I've never had a conversation with him where he didn't find a way to sneak in a comment about the unemployed Mexicans by the grocery store or the money-hungry Jews in Hollywood. Someone is always out to get him, and amazingly, it's never a nice white person. And of course, the guy is incredibly rich. So I've bit my tongue for years and let him be horrible because I didn't want to make things hard for my mom, and let's be frank, because I wanted some of that sweet, sweet money when his time, hopefully soon, rolls around. But I can't always keep my mouth shut, and lately I've been calling him out more often. Well, last year I didn't get an invitation from my aunt for Thanksgiving. It was weird, so I reached out to her to check in, and she admitted that they'd left me out because they were hoping to avoid drama. I understood that it was easier to remove me from the equation than him. My grandfather lives with my aunt now because he has Parkinson's, but it still hurt that she thought the solution to her dad being a racist loser was to cut me out. I decided I wanted to talk to her about it, so I drove to her house to chat. We were having a nice conversation and working things out, and then she had to step away for a minute. While she was gone, I heard my grandfather on the phone in the study. He was having a conversation that sounded like it was getting heated. I couldn't resist finding out what was going on, so I creeped over to eavesdrop. I heard him saying, "I'm not giving that mongrel one more dime," and that Oriental hussy knew what this was, and should have scraped out that baby like I told her to. He hung up the phone and came storming out of the office and saw me standing there. It was obvious I'd heard the conversation. He looked really stressed out, so I put on my best sympathetic face and asked if he was okay, partially because I'm not going to be outright mean to an old guy who looks like he's about to have a heart attack, and partly because I was hoping for tea. I guess I caught him at a vulnerable moment, because he revealed his big secret to me. When he was young in the military, he'd gotten a young Korean woman pregnant overseas. She had the baby, who was now grown up and in medical school and trying to steal his money, in his words. He said something about how hard it had been keeping this secret from his wife and kids all these years. Obviously, this story did nothing to make him seem like less of a miserable jerk, but it did, I don't know, kind of humanize him. Like, a terrible human, but a human nonetheless. It sort of felt like we were bonding. I even made a suggestion that maybe his secret son just wanted a relationship with him more than he wanted money, and he actually seemed to think about that possibility. So I felt like we were getting somewhere. My aunt came back out and he told me he wanted me at Thanksgiving. She was so relieved. We got through a few more holidays and it seemed like everything was going to be okay. Then that spring, I got pregnant. I won't lie, this wasn't planned, but I'm at a place in my life where I can support a child, and I've always wanted to be a mom. So I decided to go through with the pregnancy, even though the timing isn't great and the father and I aren't together. I told my family at Easter that I was going to be having a baby. They were understandably surprised but supportive until we got to my grandfather. He immediately asked what color the man was who I let run through me. When I said that yeah, the baby is going to be mixed, he was enraged. He called me all sorts of absolutely disgusting words for defiling myself and asked me how I was planning to tell my future hybrid daughter that her mother is a two-bit call girl. Even my family told him to shut up this time because it was clear he was going way too far. I left dinner crying and went home. My grandfather called 2 days after and I thought he was actually going to apologize to me this time, but instead he dropped a bombshell. Since I'd shown that I was not a true member of his family by breeding this way, he was cutting me out of his will. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was pregnant and alone and he was cutting me off just because my baby wasn't going to be all white. I yelled at him over the phone and called him every insult I'd been holding back for years, but it wasn't enough. I needed everyone to know what a horrible man he was. So when he had his birthday party a few weeks later, I showed up, uninvited obviously, at my aunt's house. I said, "Want to know what white pride here's been hiding?" and pulled out the story of his little secret Korean family. I said, "Apparently it's okay if men sleep with other races, as long as they leave them poor and alone and never speak of it." My grandfather turned bright red and screamed at me, and my family had to separate us. They ended up calling an ambulance because they thought he was having a heart attack. He wasn't, unfortunately. I know I'm never seeing a cent of that old monster's money, but at least I got him one step closer to dying.